Over the years, there have been many Star Wars video games, and at this point, they've pretty much covered every genre imaginable. FPS, third-person shooter, Souls-like, puzzle, racing, whatever the hell Star Wars Connect was.
But there's one genre that really hasn't been attempted by any Star Wars game, and that's where we come in.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Star Wars Subsist, our Star Wars survival horror game. I'm Thunder.
And I'm Lightning. And before we begin to explain the story and layout of our game, we wanted to give you some info to keep in mind while we give you an immersed look into our game concept. First off, our game is based around the events of A New Hope, which is a very hard film to get an official timeline for, though most would say it falls between 4 to 6 days. For the purposes of our game, we're going to say that the film happened within 4, with day 3 being a majority of the film. As you'll see, these days will line up with the end of each act in our game, giving you an idea of what percentage of the game you're in and roughly what part of A New Hope has taken place thus far. But honestly, it's all in space and time is relative, so anyways, with that, we hope you enjoy.
We begin in a dark hallway. You take the role of an Alderaanian consular security guard and are surrounded by comrades as you hear this. And you soon realize what's happening. You are playing out the final scene of Rogue One, the catalyst of A New Hope and the events of the rest of the original trilogy. As you're slaughtered, you play the next soldier in line, and then the next and the next, ultimately losing this battle. No matter what you do, there's no escaping Vader's attack. As you reach the final soldier, a cutscene starts as he struggles to hand off the Death Star plans, a shot-for-shot recreation of this scene from Rogue One. And we all know how it goes. One very lucky guard escapes Vader and hands off the plans to his superior, who then hands them to CGI Leia. This is where our story begins. Have you guessed our hero for this game yet? You've already met them. That's right, our hero is the only guard who survived Vader. For now. No, seriously, allow us to share with you the daring and thrilling story of this guard's journey while explaining why we chose him and not someone more recognizable.
So right before your superior turns the corner to hand Leia the plans, he gives you 2 assignments. The first is to secure the airlock, and the second is to prepare the escape pods.
Make sure you secure the airlock and prepare the escape pods.
These have now become your first 2 objectives. As soon as you gain control, the words Day 1, Tantive 4 appear on the screen. The Tantive 4, the ship you're currently on, is going to act as something of an integrated tutorial. You make your way to the airlock, and after a quick check to ensure it's secured, you begin to leave. Once you turn the corner, you're met by a squadron of guards rushing past you and their commander yelling at you to hold your ground. You're unarmed and soon realize what is about to play out. You found your way to the opening scene of A New Hope. In any second now, a swarm of stormtroopers are about to flood through the airlock you just secured. And when they do, all hell breaks loose. This starts a cutscene.
As we said, you're currently unarmed, so you take cover around the corner, periodically peeking over to see what's happening. First, you see them blast through the airlock. You turn back to take a breath. When you turn back, you see that the troopers are starting to win over the guards. You look away once again, but quickly turn back to take another peek, but before you can turn your head all the way around, the commander from earlier leaps from around the corner, now mortally wounded, screaming at you to run. Now your objective is to prepare the escape pods.
Congratulations! You've accomplished your first objective. Sorta. Now you make your way to the escape pods. Once there, you prepare them for the launch as you were instructed, and just as you're about to leave, you're met with a familiar face. She asks you to watch her back as she gives a very important droid a very important message. Once she gives R2 the message, you ask Leia what you should do next. She gives you a startling answer: survive. Once she says this, you can hear footsteps approaching. She tells you to leave, but you protest, telling Leia you can't leave her side. She tells you getting off the Tantive 4 is your only hope. and that she can handle herself. You've now completed your second objective. Now, as Leia instructed, you begin to head further into the ship in hopes of evading the Imperial troopers.
As you make your way down a hall, the lights begin to flicker. You hear footsteps approaching from the corridor you just came down. You stop in your tracks and turn around. You can now hear the infamous breathing right before Vader turns the corner, heading right for you. As he follows you down the hall, it's clear he's toying with you, confident that he'll corner you down a dead-end hallway. And after a few hair-raising twists and turns through the corridor, Vader does exactly that. You've now been cornered at a dead end with no way out. Except one. A vent just big enough for you to squeeze through. You make your narrow escape just before Vader's able to turn the corner and crawl your way through to the other end.
Here you find yourself in a dark cargo hold. As you make your way to the only entrance on the other end of the room, the doors begin to open. In fear that Vader has somehow followed you, you hide behind some crates. In walks 2 stormtroopers, whose orders are to reluctantly check every room. You now have to sneak your way past the guards who are slowly making their way to the back of the room. Once you've done that, you quickly open the door and break the panel to the door, sealing the troopers inside. As you stare at the door for a moment, you can hear their protest in a few laser blasts that leave a few dents in the door. Then as you turn around, you're met with a jump scare by this guy.
This is U-3PO, an actual canon Star Wars character whose face has been ripped open by the onslaught of troopers, but he's still perfectly functional without a face. This is your new droid buddy for the rest of day 1. He's very loyal to his rebel cause, almost to a fault. He apologizes for scaring you, but reminds you that now is no time to be cowardly. He offers to help you find your way off the ship, though there's really only one viable option, the airlock from the beginning of the game. Your goal now is to make it back through the Tantive to the airlock with your new buddy U-3PO. Only one catch, the ship is swarming with troopers and you're completely unarmed. But U-3PO believes he can distract the guards long enough for you to get by, so you do just that. You make your way back to the airlock, utilizing stealth gameplay and your new seemingly psychotic best friend as a distraction when necessary. What could go wrong? So, after a death-defying and grueling trip back to the airlock, you're met with only 2 troopers guarding your way out. U-3PO tells you that it's been an honor, but here is where he'll have to take his leave. He leads the guards away from the door, and as he does, you take your leave. You've survived the Tantive 4, but what dangers await in the rest of the game?
As you exit the airlock, you find yourself on a Star Destroyer hangar, absolutely littered with stormtroopers and captured rebel guards. If you turn around toward the Tantive, you can hear a blaster shot in the final yell of U-3PO. With your only friend and ally gone and the rest of your comrades captured, you must sneak your way off the hangar, and as you do, the words, Day 2, Star Destroyer, appear on the screen. You come up with the plan that if you can get these guards out of the hangar, you can steal a TIE fighter and make your escape back to the rebel base. This part of the game is going to work somewhat like Ukulele in the Impossible Lair. At any time you can attempt to brave the hangar, doing so will skip most of the Star Destroyer but also be incredibly difficult. So most players will want to explore the rest of the Destroyer in order to find as much resources as they can before they finally tackle the hangar.
With this in mind, you dive further into the halls of the Destroyer. Down the hallway you've just entered, you find something. A prod. This prod can knock out troopers, but be sure to be quiet and hide the guards well, because you don't want to bring any attention to yourself. If you do, that could be the end of you. You'll have to be cunning and creative to get past the guards on the Destroyer. After a few dodgy run-ins, you make your way to the second level of the Destroyer, and you soon find your way to a command station above the hangar holding the Tantive 4.
As you look around the control room, you'll find an alarm that you'll be prompted to push. When you do so, the iconic Imperial alarm begins to sound off in the hangar. All the troops scramble out of there. You also push a button to reopen the hangar, and you're now clear to head back down. So if you want to try the hangar resourceless, go for it. But it won't be easy. It'll be a little easier with the prod, but not by much. And if you make it all the way to the end of the Star Destroyer level, you'll essentially find a hangar easy mode button. You'll still have to make your way back, but once you do, it's a clear straight shot to the TIE fighter.
You climb into a TIE fighter and begin to take off. As you start to make it out of the open hangar, your TIE fighter stops and begins to pull backward into the hangar for seemingly no reason, perhaps a tractor beam, but no. You see Darth Vader with his arm out, using the Force to pull you back in. He then takes up his other hand and begins to force choke you. You start to lose consciousness until the screen ultimately goes black.
You wake up in a small metallic room, and the door is locked. There's no way out, and after a short while, you can hear a commotion far in the distance. The commotion turns to yelling, and yelling soon turns to blaster fire. A stray shot shoots the lock control on your door from the outside, and you're now free. You have to sneak by through all the chaos, and you never get a great look at what's happening, but you can make a guess that a couple scruffy-looking nerf herders made your escape much simpler. With guards all around, you find a vent to crawl through. As you make your way through the vent, the words, Day 3, Death Star, appear on the screen. And if it wasn't clear, there's no more questions as to where you are and what's about to happen. Congratulations! You've made it to the Imperial Hub. Death is practically assured. You realize your only hope is to once again steal a ship and escape. Your goal now is to find a hangar once again. From here on out, Vader could be around any corner, similar to Mr. X from Resident Evil 2. You make your way to the other end of the vent, which leads to a droid storage room. You think you may be able to reprogram the droid, so you give it a shot, and sure enough, you have a new buddy. He helps you sneak past a few guards, and then a few more similar to your buddy, U-3PO. Rest in peace. But something different happens once you dupe a few troopers. This time, they eventually catch on and shut down your buddy, carrying him off, giving you one less option to get past guards. From here on out, you're on your own.
Except not entirely. Along your travels, you'll find more prods, this time with limited charges, and droids who you can use a couple times before they get shut down. Anything at all you can find to help you through the maze that is the Death Star. But none of these tools will help you if you come across Darth Vader. If you see Vader, running won't help you this time. Now you have to hide. And let's hope that you can hide before he finds you and remain undetected, or else it'll be game over. You soon find out that you're about 5 floors up from the hangar level. Easy, just take the elevator down to the level and you've made it. Only issue is, thanks to your unknown and accidental saviors, the elevators have been locked down and are non-operational. You're going to have to find more creative ways of getting from floor to floor. But for now, just try and survive the many halls, troopers, and Vader until you find your way to descend from level to level. In your travels, you'll face many unique situations, puzzles, and mazes, and you'll have to use all you've learned thus far about the game. And remember, Vader could be around any corner. You know, just to spice things up.
So at this point, you've made it to the second to last floor before the hangars. You pass a hallway with a giant window and you can see the Millennium Falcon take off from within the hangar below. The words Day 4 Escape appear on the screen. For those keeping track, if the Falcon is taking off, that means Vader is a floor below you, having just finished his fight with Obi-Wan Kenobi. You make it a bit further down the hall when you hear the door behind you open, triggering a cutscene. You turn around to see Vader enter the hallway, clutching the robe and saber of Obi-Wan. Vader drops them both, ignites his saber, and pulls you toward him using the Force. You grab onto a protruding part of the wall, but to no avail. As you skid your way towards Vader, you do something he would never expect. You pick up Obi-Wan's saber, fumbling with it while you figure out how to activate it, and cut open an exhaust pipe just inches away from Vader, causing a temporary distraction. You hastily put the saber in your vest pocket and scramble to the exit.
Once there, you close the door behind you just as Vader's red blade begins to slash through it. You're now in a corridor, and the only exit not being slashed through is locked. You're going to have to rely on your trusty friend, the vent. Except this time, as you enter, you can hear Vader's breathing behind you, and the walls of the vent begin to crush inward on you. It's up to you to make it to the other end before Vader crushes the entire vent. Now Vader knows where you are and has a pretty good idea of where you are going, so encounters with him may become more common than previous levels of the Death Star. The vent that you just escaped from led to a seemingly endless pit. You begin to fall, but as you do, you grab onto a ledge with one hand. As you dangle there for a moment, the saber comes loose and falls through the pit. It's a shame, too. You really wanted to keep that laser sword, but oh well. You're sure it wasn't important to anyone. Now you've got a good grip on the ledge, and you can see a vent on the other side of the pit. You shimmy your way over and begin to crawl through a new vent and make it out to a corridor on the other side. From here, your goal is to take a shuttle from one of the hangars on the floor and escape the Death Star. But just remember, Vader essentially knows exactly where you are now.
So after a horrifying time narrowly avoiding Vader, you find yourself in a shuttle. You begin to take off, and for the first time it seems like you're really going to get away. But suddenly, you feel an impact on the shuttle. Ties are on your tail and they destroyed your main weapon function. You put on your shields and hope for the best. You try to go into hyperspace, but it seems they also damage the hyperdrive in the initial shot. In the distance, you find an Imperial Star Destroyer grave, a dumping ground for old and rusted parts and ships, a perfect place to lay low. You lose the ties and find a nice spot to hunker down and shut your lights off. You send a signal to the rebel base for them to come and get you. Now the only thing to do is wait out the 5 minutes it'd take for them to suit up and head out. Right as your signal sends, your ship is hit and starts to spin in place. You then see a TIE heading your way, but it's not just any TIE fighter, it's Darth Vader's TIE fighter. Ready for the chase of your lifetime? You, now in control of your shuttle for the first time, have 5 minutes to survive and escape the clutches of Vader within this Imperial graveyard. Good luck, but if you don't, game over, just like every other time Vader caught you.
If the Force is with you, you'll be able to survive the 5 minutes and make it to the rendezvous point where you'll dock on one of the rebel ships and make your daring escape. Once on the ship, you take a moment to rest and shut your eyes. When you wake up, they tell you they've landed on Yavin 4. You walk off the ship and make your way to the war room where a meeting for the attack on the Death Star is just finishing up. There you find the princess with her new friends. Before you can make your way over to her, a guard interrupts you. He informs you that you still need to be briefed on what happened.
He also begins to mention how you and Leia were the only ones to make it back, and that it may be best to leave her be. Right then, the guard feels a tap on his shoulder. The guard turns around to reveal Leia. She asks for a moment alone with you. She tells you she can't believe the horrors you must have had to face. However, she always had hope that you would survive. At this point, you hear Luke calling for her. She walks towards him, credits begin to roll, and congratulations, you've survived Star Wars Subsist.
Thank you for listening and watching, and if you like what you see, please be sure to subscribe.
Our channel is daily uploads from podcasts to video essays, let's plays to skits.
Be sure to find us on Twitch and Patreon.
Our theme song is Sunny Day by Froggy and the Friendship, and our Let's Play intro is Sunny Bit by the same band.
Link to all these in the description below. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.